6 years now. And I said to Katrina, in November or December, when I said, we have to do something, we have to do something because I'm just gaining weight. And I said, I think I'm going to join up with Joanna again, and I'm going to implement her intermittent fasting program with the products. She was, no, 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 no. So I did it anyway. I told her, so I'm going to do it because I have to do something. I did it. I told Joanna, I said, no holds barred. What products did you use? How did you intermittent fast? When did you fast? What did you eat? I want to follow the thing completely. So I did. I probably fasted a little bit more than I should have a couple of times, but basically I was 12 to 6, and the weight just started dropping off like, wow. And I felt so much better.
Yeah.
I got injured. I had to go to the hospital. My blood work, the doctor, it was not a fasting blood work. It was after my lunch, and my blood work was still um, better than it has been probably in 30 years without fasting. So the doctor said, have you been fasting? I said, yeah, for the last 3 weeks. But that was a really good eye opener for my wife and I, that my blood work was almost all in spec. So that was really, really, really good.
That's awesome. Okay, so now you have my curiosities really piqued. You said you've been watching Joanna for 6 years. So what capacity do you know her? Were you just happened to be hooked up on Facebook? Or
Oh
you
my
more than
gosh,
friends?
it's our foster daughter's fault. My foster daughter lives in Minnesota, don't you know? And she started this Plexus thing back in 2015, was it, Joanna? I
I
think.
probably met her through a garage sale site.
Yep.
Yep.
And she said, we got to try this girl, Joanna, whatever. I says, right. And so we tried the products. I don't know what it was. We didn't really
We
click
didn't stick
too
with
well.
it.
The products were like, nah, this isn't going to work. And then Joanna was very, very ambitious in the beginning. She was texting us and calling us a lot. And said, okay, we were involved with way too many network marketing programs in the past, and said, no, no, I don't want to do this. So we stopped, took her off Facebook, except I didn't. I kept her on. And after she had Penny and she started the intermittent fasting, and I watched her become a completely different person. She found a smaller person inside her, and it was like, oh my gosh, I have to look at this again and try the intermittent fasting. I tried the intermittent fasting with my stepson last year, and 2, maybe 3 weeks, I was always hungry, and I said, I'm not going to do it. I asked Joanna, I said, how do I maintain hunger control? And she says, I think the triplex will work for you. Here I am.
There you are. That is fantastic. Oh my gosh.
And isn't he just handsome? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So proud of Joe. He's just so handsome.
No, I am so old. I am 39.
Look at-
I think you're going to pass me this year, right?
Yes, I
awesome.
pass you.
I'm 39 plus 22. I had
Right.
20 seconds on.
Yeah, I was kind of figuring there was a plus something, but I was going to be polite. Yeah.
Yeah, 20. My daughter catches me this year, so she says she's going to stop her birthdays now too. My mother said that Jack Benny stayed 39 for his entire life, so why can't I?
I
Josh
should
just
try
had
that.
this real quick, Joe.
Oh,
Hi, Penny.
that's...
Oh, she is. I don't know about him. I know you, Josh, right? I remember that phone call you guys gave me. I was working in my basement, and I didn't recognize the phone number, and I answered the phone, and she said some crazy stuff, and I said, who in the world is this? She goes, oh, it's Joanna and Josh. I just want to let you know you won. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it was awesome.
That is super awesome. Well, thank you, Joe. That was cool. I did not know all the details behind that. So it's always fun to hear that. Thank you for sharing. All right, with that said, we are going to give the floor to Lisa. I'm super excited for you to share with the team and for them to really soak in all the goodness of your story. So Lisa, take the floor.
Well, gosh, thank you so much. I helps if I unmute.
Yeah.
I loved all of that because you'll notice that I am very talkative, but I am super nervous. If you could see my knees under the desk right now, they are shaking like crazy. And so having spent a few minutes with you guys and getting to know you, that was super helpful. So thank you for sharing your
good.
story, Joe. I mean, that was like mind-boggling to hear about your weight loss and all the other things. I know it's going to just ripple effect from there. But thank you, Tanya, for inviting me. And thank you, everybody, for letting me crash your party tonight. I am always honored to be invited to speak on team calls like this because I know that this is how we spread the message to the masses. And I know that one of the things we can do is share stories. And that's what most people are going to relate to. So as Tanya said, I'd love to share my story with you. And then a little bit about my business journey with just a few tips that I think might be helpful. Probably don't have anything like that's mind-blowing to most of you, especially now that I know there's a diamond on the call and somebody who added 30 ambassadors, and I see senior gold like right around the corner for you, Joe, and of course Tanya. But I do think that maybe there'll be a few things that might be helpful. And if you've heard it all before because you're a veteran, maybe you'll hear it a little differently, or maybe it'll spark a different thought for you and you'll be able to use it in your business as well. So again, as Tanya said, my name is Lisa Wynkoop and I am a family chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor for 25 years. I had no intentions of ever sharing Plexus. I probably said I would probably never tell someone that I was even taking the products. And quite frankly, I had every intention of using the 60-day money back guarantee because I honestly did not think that these products would work. Nothing else did. So why would this work? So what had happened was for most of my life up until 2010, I was a very healthy person. Got into chiropractic. My health got even better. When 2010 hit, I was doing all the things, at least I thought I was. I was getting adjusted. My husband's also a chiropractor, so I was getting adjusted on a regular basis. I was vegetarian, eating organic, getting enough rest, moving my body, decreasing all the stress as much as I could. I mean, just life was good. I loved what I did for a living. I had a son that was just amazing. He plays baseball. We love baseball. Just life seemed really great until it wasn't. And literally the rug was ripped out from under me one day. Literally one day I felt totally good and 1 minute I didn't. Just a few months after that, after being bedbound for several months and lots of testing and lots of questions, I was finally diagnosed with MS. And then 2 years later with rheumatoid arthritis. And between the two of those, I spiraled downhill very quickly from 2010 to 2015. And by the time 2015 hit, let me describe what that looked like on a daily basis to you guys. So between those two illnesses, I had numbness and tingling and pain in all four of my extremities and down the right side of my face. That's called a neuropathy, and a lot of diabetics, MS gets it as well. I had terrible brain fog. I felt like I was constantly looking through a veil. I honestly believe that this line down my forehead is for me always having like this furrowed brow when I was looking at people, because I was concentrating so hard trying to figure out what people were saying to me and how I was going to remember it, because the brain fog was that bad. I couldn't read more than a page or two. The comprehension just wasn't there. I had exhaustion to the degree that I felt like I had cinder blocks on both of my feet and that I just could not put one foot in front of the other. On some days. I lived for nap time. I napped every day before my son got home from school because I never wanted, he was 13 when I was diagnosed with MS, and I never wanted his teenage years to be known as mommy was always in bed. Mom was always sick. Mom could never be at my baseball game. So I did everything really in secret. I didn't post things on Facebook. Most of our friends didn't know about it. The ones who knew about it were the ones who were like picking up the loose ends for me. But I was napping. I couldn't wait to go to bed at night. I was just completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Unable, like perceptions. Like I would go to put something down and it would hit the table really hard because the table wasn't where I expected it to be. Severely addicted to sugar. I went through at least 2, but a lot of times 3 of those really big containers of Trader Joe's dark chocolate covered almonds in a week. like at $10 a pop. So talk about cost savings getting under chiropractic. And my husband knew never to run out of them. They were truly an addiction, you guys. And I don't use that word lightly. I am a social worker by trade before chiropractic. I was not sleeping through the night, which on top of the exhaustion that comes from autoimmune diseases made it even worse. But I think what was happening was I had started menopause. Wasn't having any other symptoms, but I think I was having hot flashes at nighttime. And for those of you who don't know this, MS is very heat sensitive. So I would wear cooling vests outside in the summer. I would wear things on my wrists and my ankles. My husband would have to pre-cool my car. I couldn't take food out of a hot oven. I would be on the floor. Every muscle would seize. Couldn't take a hot shower. Didn't take a hot shower for 5 years. And then I was, I think, having hot flashes at night, and it would wake me up. I'd be in a muscle spasm from head to toe and in severe pain. And my husband would turn the ceiling fan on high. It would cool me down like 15, 20 minutes. And I finally would relax. All my muscles would finally relax. I'd go back to sleep, probably 15, 20 more minutes before I would fall asleep. Hour and a half, 2 hours later, be starting all over again. So I was exhausted, not sleeping, brain fog, neuropathies. My balance was off. I was walking into walls. And on top of all that, I had the pain of rheumatoid arthritis to the point where my fingers and toes were severely deformed. I couldn't even hold a pen, you guys. I could not bend my fingers. I held a pen or pencil like this. Couldn't lift up things. In the winter, RA is sensitive to cold. So in the winter, the weather was so bad sometimes that I couldn't even get shoes on my feet. So I couldn't leave the house. If I did, I was wearing big, huge men's slippers. So it was just one terrible thing after another. And I never knew what each day was going to be like until my foot hit the floor. And half the time that didn't even guarantee anything, because if I felt halfway decent by the afternoon, I didn't. So a good day, I was going to the office and I was seeing patients, but I was in pain the whole time. I was glad that their face was down on the table, so they weren't seeing the tears welling up and the expression on my face. A bad day, I was home using a walker to get around my house. My husband would have to open anything I would need opened before he left for work that day, because I couldn't open jars. I couldn't open a toothpaste cap, you guys. He would cut my food for me, brush my teeth for me, brush my hair for me, all of those things. And then the worst of the days, I was bedbound, and I would have to transfer from the bed to the seat of my walker and push myself to the bathroom with the heels of my feet, because I couldn't bear weight on my feet, and then go back to bed. And those were the days that I was calling for a 2-week steroid taper. And that was happening about every 2 to 3 months. So I was, now I have osteoporosis thanks to that. But I was doing all the things still, you guys. I was doing all the good things that I was doing before all of this happened. I added daily injections for the MS. I was on 3 medications for the rheumatoid arthritis. I was doing acupuncture. I was doing Chinese herbal medicine. I had gone gluten-free, dairy-free, tried to go sugar-free, but really struggled with that one because I was so desperately addicted to it. I just really felt like there was nothing else. I was doing gut health. I knew the connection between autoimmune diseases and gut health. My husband was doing all kinds of research. I was spending $70 a bottle for a probiotic that had to be refrigerated and never saw a difference. I was taking digestive enzymes. I was taking an antifungal. None of that was working. I was doing cleanses. And then someone reached out to me about Plexus. Now, mind you, just like Joe was watching Joanna for 6 years, I was watching my friend for probably 2 years. And I think part of it was she was posting mainly about weight loss and the business. So that's one business tip I'll give you in a minute. So remind me if I forget. And I didn't need either of those. I was overweight because I was so sedentary, and the steroids and the pain and everything. But that was the least of my worries. And I didn't need another job because I just needed to get back to my job, my real job, as I called it. So I just scrolled. And I would say like, oh my gosh, I'm really glad for her. That's awesome. She's doing great. But I would just keep scrolling. Just never really thought about it. And I never in those 2 years liked or commented on one of her Plexus posts. And I adore this woman, adore her. We met each other when our children were tiny babies in a mothering group together, and, just have known each other since then. My son's now 24. Adore her, but I would comment on other things, but I never, ever, ever commented or liked a Plexus post because I was afraid she would reach out to me. And I just really didn't want to have to deal with that. So keep that in the back of your mind too. People are watching, they're paying attention. And the second part of that business tip is diversify what you post about. Because if she had never reached out to me and she had always stuck to what she was posting about, I would have never known that Plexus could be helpful for me. Don't know why I said yes, but thank God every day that I did that I would try it, again, thinking I was going to use the rolling 60-day money back guarantee. But I did say yes. And literally 3 days after drinking the pink drink, I slept through the night like a hibernating bear, woke up with sustained energy through the day, and that brain fog had lifted. Like the world was crystal clear. Like I knew where the table was and I wasn't hitting it with the glass too hard. I still had the pain. I still had the balance issues. I still had the neuropathies. I still had the sugar addiction. I still had all the other things. But those three things, you guys, was enough that I told my husband I would drink this drink the rest of my life. 3 weeks in, I, weaned into the triplex and X Factor. We didn't have X Factor Plus back then. And I noticed that I could move my fingers a little bit. Like they weren't bendable, they were still in pain, but I could move them. They weren't as stiff. Back then, I couldn't wear my rings. My fingers were so deformed, you guys, but I could move them a little bit. And my feet weren't quite as painful. And I was like, there's something to these products. So I went all in and I ordered the loading dose of ease and the loading dose of nerve for my second month to go with the triplex and X Factor. And literally, you guys, from there, it was just amazing each month how much better I got. And obviously I'm not the same person. Like my walker has been retired. It was retired. I haven't had a steroid taper since before Plexus. I started Plexus in April of 2015. And I think my last steroid dose was in December the year before. So I have none of those symptoms. No longer have the sugar addiction, have lost 40 pounds. I weigh less now than I did when I got married. I have all the energy. I have the mental clarity, the focus. I'm back to my practice full time. I'm off all medications. That was on the advice and with the direction of both of my rheumatologists and my neurologist, because there was no reason. My MRIs are stable. I had 10 brain lesions when I started. I not only don't have any more 6 years later, but 2 of them have gotten smaller and I have no symptoms. All the RA symptoms are gone. All my inflammatory markers are normal. I do have days where I'm a little tired. I do have days where like my fingers are a little sore. This morning, my pinky was a little sore and I was like, is it coming back? And Steve's like, Lisa, you are 56. You're going to have an acre of pain here or there. But life is like 180 degrees different, you guys. And the only thing I did differently was Plexus. When that happens, you can't not share. I mean, first off, I had, like you can see, I talk and people could see the difference in me. If you were to see my before and after pictures, I was puffy, my hair was unhealthy. My skin was just tired looking. My eyes didn't have a sparkle. I just looked sick and I looked inflamed and it was probably 3 to 4 months in and that was gone. So because of that, I ended up sharing. And it was kind of an accidental business. Like I think a lot of people fall into it. And I remember one day my friend Dawn reaching out to me and going, would you like to know how you made all that money? And I was like, sure, we should probably figure this out. And I sat with her in a Panera. I'll never forget that morning. And she went through the comp plan with me. And I remember looking at her and sitting back and going, this just seems too good to be true. And she's like, I know, that's what I said. And at this point, she was senior Ruby. And whole different story that you should have her come on, Tanya, and do a call for you. Ended up going Emerald. I started in April. She went Emerald in December. And she built 5 months into her business, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she built to Emerald over that 2-year period, going through double mastectomy, had her ovaries removed, chemo, radiation, homeschooling 5 children, just an amazing story in and of itself. And just that's what got my attention. When she started posting those things about how she had energy after chemo and how all her doctors had approved all of her supplements and all of the things that I worked oncology as a social worker, I knew she shouldn't be experiencing. Then she had my attention. So then I was reading more and more about her journey. So when she reached out, I was willing to listen because I knew there was something there. Forgot that piece of the puzzle. Sorry about that. So anyway, I started sharing and I started realizing that there was something here that the masses needed to know about. And I also knew that I had 2 very serious autoimmune diseases and I needed a plan B. My job is very physical, obviously, and I was blessed to be back at my job full time, but I also knew that we were eyeballs deep in medical debt when you're self-employed and you have to spend $17,000 a year towards your own medical care before you even have partial payment from your insurance. You get eyeballs deep in medical debt. So I needed to pay down medical debt. I had so many other bills that had stacked up. I hadn't been working very much. So this kind of made sense as like my plan B, if you will. And it also made sense for paying down the debt. What if one day they reared their ugly head and I couldn't work? This would be a way that I could help support my family because I can do it from anywhere. And I have pretty much. But what it's done for me as a business is I paid all that medical debt off. I have taken my family to Hawaii, Costa Rica, all over the United States, following my son who played collegiate baseball, to Denmark to see our exchange daughter when her baby was born and be there for the christening. None of that came out of our budget. All of it was paid by my Plexus income. And then last spring, when COVID hit and our office was closed for 2 months without an income, my Plexus paycheck paid all of our bills for those 2 months. We didn't have to dip into savings. We didn't have to worry about where the next paycheck was going to come from because of Plexus. And so if I had ever said, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to share, I really don't know where I would still be eyeballs deep in medical debt. I'm sure I still have student loan debts. I'd still have all of the other debt. I would have never been able to travel, physically never able to travel, and financially. And then I wouldn't have had that nest egg or that income when COVID shut us down last year. So a couple of hints or tips for you guys. The very first thing I'll say to everybody, and again, I don't think any of this is mind blowing, but the very first thing I say to everybody who starts with me on my team is you have to be in this for the long haul, you guys, and you have to embrace the valleys as much as you do the mountaintops, because you're going to have both. No matter how, I've been in this 6 years, and you're going to do this. I've done this for 6 years. And if you stay here or here too long, it's not a good thing. You got to, wherever you are, even if it's a mountaintop and it's really wonderful and you just ranked up and you're excited, celebrate it, embrace it, learn from it, but move on. You got business to do, you got work to do, and you got people to reach out to. Celebrate and move on. If you're down in that valley, do the same thing, embrace it. There's a lesson to be learned there. Embrace that valley, figure out why you're there, reach out for help if you need to, learn from it, and move on. Don't stay in either place too long, okay? You just have to keep embracing those moments, whether they're highs or lows. Next thing I always tell everybody who starts is you have to have unshakable, and I mean unshakable, belief in 4 things. And you've heard this before: the products, the comp plan, the company, and yourself. The first 3 are so simple, you guys. My testimony in and of itself gave me unshakable belief in these products. The comp plan and what it's done for my family, again, gave me unshakable belief. The company and their generosity, their charitable work, all of the things, the fact that they always do what's best for the field, having met the leaders of our company, unshakable belief. Where the shakable belief came was from me. And that has been my drawback. And that's why I'm still not a bad place to sit at Senior Ruby, but that's why I'm still Senior Ruby. A lot of reasons in there, but it's the shakable belief, the things that I don't quite believe about myself and my abilities yet, that I'm still working on. That's where I'm struggling, you guys. When you have those 4 or however many you have, you need to have them and you need to share them on loan with your new people on your team, because they don't have them yet. I didn't have them when I started. I started, like I said, thinking that I was never going to continue. I'd probably get my money back. It wasn't going to work. No other probiotic had. Why was this any different? If Dawn hadn't sent me messages and encouraged me, if she hadn't sent me testimonies of other people with MS and RA and just kept speaking belief to me, I probably would have quit, and maybe even just continue the products, but not share the business. I don't know, but that's what kept me going and made me start, okay? One of the things that I will say that really helps me work with me and my beliefs is the training that I do. And you guys, I know have heard of Bob Heilig. He's one of my favorites. If you guys don't know of him, Google him, start following him. You don't have to pay money to do it, but he has helped me with mindset and network marketing more than anything else, like network marketing in general. I'll give you some other sources that I use that are more specific to Plexus, but I love his work. He has a podcast. He has a Facebook page called Your Virtual Upline. They don't cost anything. Follow them. He's doing a training this week that's free as well that I highly recommend. We started yesterday. It's an hour a day at noon every day. You can watch it after the fact, but if you can do it live, do it. It's not too late to register. You get homeworks each day. And honestly, I've been in a little bit of a weird place. And doing this training this week has been like, if I had spoke to you last week, you would have seen a very different person than you're seeing tonight. He has really helped me figure out where my limiting beliefs are, where my fears are, and as he puts it, how to change red light stories to green light stories. And I just really highly recommend you guys somehow, in some way, manner, or form, checking him out. Okay, next is you really need to understand that success in this business is not guaranteed by how many hours you put in or how many boxes you check and how much you do, being busy and all of that. It's really about working smarter. And I think that was part of my problem when Dawn, I don't even know if I mentioned this earlier. I've been all over the place with this story tonight, but 3 years ago in January, Dawn had to step away from her Emerald business because her cancer came back and she had to really fight for her life. And Tanya knows Dawn personally and knows this and visited her very graciously when we almost lost her 3 times at UVA. But I took over her Emerald team as a Ruby ambassador 3 years ago, had no idea what I was doing with my Ruby team, much less an Emerald team. I was scared to death. And I just put one foot in front of the other. And it worked. She never lost rank. I knew she needed the money because she needed to support her family. Her husband was not working because he was taking care of her and their 5 children. And she was also doing a lot of alternative therapy that insurance doesn't pay for. And I knew she needed the car allowance. I knew she needed the jewel pool. She needed all of that. So we worked so hard and we never lost rank. We actually got her to 2,300 points, which was super exciting. And she was able to walk back into a business, again, a testimony to this business model, never having lost rank, always had a paycheck, never had to worry how they were going to pay their bills. But I think I got so tied up in the management of an Emerald team that I lost focus on what I needed to be doing to grow from a senior Ruby team at that point, or at this point, to an Emerald team. So I've gone back to the basics again. And the basics truly is, for me, working smarter. And by working smarter, I mean, I've gone back to things that I stopped doing. Like I stopped time blocking. I time block now. And I know what my business hours are for Plexus. And during that time, I don't do anything else. I don't move the laundry. I don't take phone calls. I don't do anything. I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I'm doing that IPA. I'm setting boundaries again. I lost a lot of my boundaries and I was working nights and weekends a lot because Dawn had a large team. And then I was exhausted when she came back. So I just kind of let a lot of those things go. And now that I've started setting boundaries again and I have that family time and I'm coming in refreshed every day and I'm time blocking, I'm seeing that I'm so much more productive than when I was working 10 hours a day. You know, I'm working 3 to 4 and it's like, okay, this is working again. The other thing I highly suggest is having systems, and you guys probably have them. You have wonderful leadership on your team, but the ones that I really use a lot and I keep in the notes of my phone so I can copy, paste, and not reinvent are the systems for how I reach out, how I follow up with a prospect, customer, or ambassador, how I onboard somebody, excuse my gagging dog over here, and how I duplicate all of that down to my new folks. When somebody starts, I can just copy and paste it to them instead of them reinventing it or me retyping it every time. But I have a system for each of those things, and life is a lot easier and time goes a lot faster. But I use a lot of organizational stuff too, which I had gotten out of. And I use a lot of that. And all of these things, you guys, I feel funny because I'm kind of skimming the surface and they could all be trainings in and of themselves. So, you know, if you have questions at the end, I'm happy to answer them, but I at least wanted to give you like the superficial stuff that I'm doing. If you're looking for organizational stuff, when I first started, I used 4x6 cards. It was as simple as it could possibly be, with the person's name. And I always had things like DX for diagnosis and RX for prescriptions and goals, and then their allergies, and then made notes and anything and everything I did so that I could always go back and reference that. And they stayed in alphabetical order. And, you know, I had this whole system, and you get to a point in your business and that works really well. And then you get to a point and you're like, okay, this, you know, I need something else here. And you can use an Excel spreadsheet. I now use the Doe app. I don't know if anybody here has heard of that. But that's a really great place that you can keep all of your notes in one place, and they give you people to reach, you know, they pull names out of your prospects lists every day for you to reach out to. So it's kind of, you don't have to really think about it, and keeps you organized, and you can schedule follow-ups, and you can keep all of your information on basically electronic index cards. So that's one thing that I've done, is got organized this time last year, and that's helped tremendously. Last thing I thought I would do very, very quickly, excuse me, share with you some of my most favorite resources. You probably know most of them, but maybe some of them you don't. I'm an avid reader. When I couldn't read because I had no comprehension, it broke my heart. I'm back in a book club again. I love it. I read for fun, but I also read for personal development, business development. So I thought I'd share a few of my favorite books. Mindset, first off, let me take all the stickies. I have stickies all over my books. You probably have heard of this one, what to say to yourself when you talk, what to say when you talk to yourself. That is an amazing book. Mindset all the way. Highly recommend it. The Flip Flop CEO, one of the very first books I read and love, love, love. These are kind of the beginner books that I love. If you're new or you have somebody new, GoPro, Eric Worre, love him. You can also get it in audio. I listen to it in my car. I reread it. And I don't know where these two went. I must have lent them out, but I also love Rock Your Network Marketing Business, Sarah Robbins. Different business, but amazing to follow, and Go for No. And I love that one and give that to all my new people because it's story written, so it's not boring, and it kind of really makes you understand why you would go for no. If you're a little bit more advanced, the one I haven't read yet, but it's on my list, is Eaters Eat Last. I've heard lots of really good things and would can't wait to read that one. Of course, everybody's heard of John Maxwell. These are my two favorites, 5 Levels of Leadership, and then his 21 Irrefutable Laws. Both of them are amazing and have gotten me past those leadership lids and things that I was struggling with. This one I really love. You guys have heard of like the network marketing colors, the yellow, blues, greens, reds, and yellows are the caretakers and all that. Well, this guy, Dr. Taylor Hartman's The People Code. I love this one. This is more, the other one to me is more personality based. This actually has a test that people take, and you get to their innate driving force on why they do what they do and what innately they're going to be attracted to. And once you know that about yourself, your spouse, whoever it is, but especially your team, then you can approach them and mentor them and be a friend to your friends, to your team, to your husband, to your children, whoever it is, knowing what their innate driving force is. So that really was eye-opening to me to figure out who I was, but also my family, my whole family took it. I gave it to my team to take. I don't think I copied and pasted. I think you can get a copy of the actual test online, but it's also in the book. And I'm happy to send any of this to Tanya to share with you guys, because I know I'm talking really, really fast. I meant 2 more quick things. I mentioned Bob's trainings. I love that he also has a Legacy Leadership Academy. That is a paid version of his training, but it's really worth it. But specific to Plexus, you guys have probably heard of Memento Movement, my favorite. I do it every time Brooke and Emily do it. And I also every month pay for Align Business Coaching, which is Brooke Hemingway. It's $29 a month, you guys. It's amazing. She does so much. I mean, we sit and we work together. She gives you PDFs, she gives you scripts, she helps you problem solve. She does hour-long product information. She does hour-long business coaching questions. You can ask questions and she'll sit down at the end of the month and work with you and figure out how to close people and what to do and troubleshoot. So love, love, love. Best $29 a month I spend. Last podcast that I like, obviously Bob Heilig, Abby Kappa, she's specific obviously to Plexus, love hers. Hers is called She's Here For It. For product and health information, I love Mark Hyman, Dr. Mark Hyman. His is called The Doctor's Pharmacy, and it's with an F as in pharmacy. And then the Modern Medicine Movement, which is Brooke Hemingway's husband, Thomas, ER doctor, retired now. He's wonderful because he does a lot of things on health related topics, and he's going to circle back a lot of times that it applies to Plexus because he is also in Plexus. Mindset, obviously, Rachel Hollis and Mel Robbins. And if you're not already doing this, I highly recommend that you go to John Maxwell's website and sign up for his Minute with Maxwell, and they deliver it to your email every morning. It's 1 to 2 minutes usually, and it's a little short video, and he picks a word and he talks about it, and it's usually anything to do with leadership or personal development. And it's a great way. That's the first thing I do every morning is listen to his minute or 2 minutes and whatever the word of the day was. And if it's really great, I share it with the leaders on my team, but it's always a way to focus my brain first thing in the morning as I'm waking up. And I just love his voice. So it's just one of those great way to start your day. I just flew through a bunch of stuff. I hope that's what you were looking for, Tanya. I know, obviously, like I said, everything that I talked about could have been the products and all of that could be trainings in and of themselves, but hopefully you guys get a little bit of something that will spur a thought, or you'll think of somebody, or you'll find a different way or a different resource to help others. So thank you. I hope I didn't go too long.
You were under 30 minutes, girlfriend.
Good. I was hoping.
And it is very clear that you have been running an Emerald team. Wow, what a wonderful
Not
accomplishment.
anymore. I don't know if I mentioned, Dawn is back. Thank you.
Yes, of course she is. Yes, I've seen her in action, going live and everything. So that's really wonderful to see and quite miraculous and amazing. I don't know where, I mean, there's all God in that. There's no other doubt. There's all God in that. But
No doubt in my mind.
it's incredible. But when I think about your story, and I won't get into this too much because I want to take everybody's time, but like when you made that comment about running her team for her while she was going through those 3 years of treatments, and I knew that, obviously. I've guest spoke for you and your team and stuff. But when you said that, it was like, wow, that is a sacrifice. So kudos to you for putting yourself in that position to serve. I mean, that's a beautiful representation of what we do at Plexus every day. And you're doing it at a very high level when you're willing to go from a Ruby status to directing and guiding an Emerald team, and not only directing and guiding them, but literally growing that whole entire team to 2,300 points, and then opening the door for her to be able to go Sapphire like she is now. And I think it's a terrific example to anyone listening to this call that when you are called to do something, it does not matter what level you are at. You are capable beyond what you recognize and what you understand. So if you're a gold ambassador, a senior gold ambassador, whatever it is, and you're sitting there thinking, I could never hold an event. I could never be at that level. I could never lead like that. I could never run an event or run a contest type of thing. All of the things that go on with what we're doing. Even if you're a silver ambassador, you're thinking, I could never do a 3-way chat. How will I ever know enough about these products? So not true. When push comes to shove and you're called to step up, you find it within yourself. Lisa found it within yourself, and everybody on this call can find it within yourself to accomplish things you don't think you can accomplish, because that is the way we function as humans. We are all so much more capable than we are willing to recognize on a daily basis. So kudos to you, Lisa, for that.
Thank you very much. You're right. It is a good example of the one Plexus, and the fact that it goes back to the Bob Heilig thing. Like, I could have set up red lights and I could have said, there's no way I can do this. I'm not ready. Yeah. But I was motivated by the fact that I loved and adored Dawn. So I would have done it anyway. But also the fact that I really, honest and truly, don't know. I do know where I would be. I would be in a wheelchair. There's no doubt. I was already using a walker and barely able to do that some days if Dawn had not reached out to me. So I felt very indebted. And I honestly didn't expect it to be for more than a month, maybe 2. And in all honesty, if I'm to be fair, it started out as a selfless thing, but towards the end, I was really grateful because I learned. I mean, I was, by fire, of course, but I learned a tremendous amount about myself, about the business, about people, about leadership, and so it was a blessing in a very odd way. And it was a blessing to me to be able to do that so that she could step back into that role. And I'm so grateful that she is. And sorry, my dog for some reason is thinking that like he should have the floor. But anyway, yeah, I think everybody, I hope the message that everybody gets is no matter where you are, like literally 6 years ago, I would have never sat and done this. Like my knees are shaking, but I would have been throwing up before I would have done this. So if you think you can't do something, that was Dawn. Okay, and then I will shut up. Dawn is really good at that. So if you're a leader on your team and you have people under you, know what their strengths are and make them do it, whether they want to or not. Like Dawn knew that I could do it. She knew I was terrified. Literally, you guys, terrified. My heart would race. I would literally be in the bathroom throwing up ahead of time, nauseous for days before just thinking about it. But the very first time I ever spoke, I don't know if it was the event that I met you at or not, Tanya, but I was picking her up and we were driving to, it might've been Richmond. I don't think it was Charlottesville. And I remember getting in her car when I got to her house and we're driving off and we hit the interstate and I hear this click, click, and she clicks the door locks and I'm like, all right. And she goes, I might've volunteered you to speak at the event tonight and give your health testimony. I'm like, what? And she knew that if she had told me ahead of time, I would have never shown up. So she knew she just had to push me. She has kicked me up on more stages and in front of more people because she knew that I had to do it to get past my fears. But the best part was we're sitting there waiting and they start like, I know that she's like, I'm in my brain from the whole car drive. I'm going through what I'm going to say. And I've never at that point ever given my story. I've never told my story before. So I have no idea what I was saying. Alec Clark was there. So I had to be compliant. And I was like, I don't even know how to tell my story in a compliant way.
Yeah.
So I'm freaking out. And then all of a sudden we're sitting there and they start calling people up to do their testimonies. And I'm not doing anything because she's like, okay, you know, people are getting up and there's tons of people. They don't need me. And so I'm just sitting there and this person sitting next to me is going, are you going to go? And I'm like, no, they got plenty of people. They're fine. And all of a sudden Dawn is like 2 people down and she leans over and she goes, Lisa, don't go up. And I'm like, no problem. I'm good. I gotcha. And she goes, because you're going to do your business testimony instead. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, I didn't even know I had a business testimony, you guys. Didn't have a clue. I was like 5 months into the business. I had no idea I had a business. I didn't even know what a business testimony was. So when you think you can't, you can. If you don't push out of your comfort zone, you never will. Somebody might have to kick you or you might have to kick somebody. So definitely. And I still love her. So anyway, that's all I'll say. I'll be quiet now.
That's awesome. It reminds me, I did a quick off the cuff Facebook Live on the team page within the last week. And I really, after I did it, I was like, that's not exactly how I wanted that to sound. I actually went back and deleted it. But it was really along the lines of what you're talking about, like being really truthful with somebody. And sometimes that's sitting down with them and having a conversation. Like I can envision Dawn saying, Lisa, what is your problem? Like, for real, you are perfectly capable of this. You're going to do this. Like, let's knock the socks off. Let's rock and roll. Like, girlfriend, quit sitting on the sidelines. This is ridiculous. Like, that's a truth bomb in a way, right? And that's what I was kind of trying to talk about. And then another way of going about it is perfectly what Dawn did. You know, she just put you in the position and I'm not going to say anything, actually. I'm just going to take action and this is going to happen. You know, having the courage as an individual, leading your team to step into places that for a lot of people might leave them thinking apprehensive thoughts of like, oh, I couldn't say that to her, or oh my gosh, I couldn't set somebody up like that. That is just awful and it's cruel and it's terrible. Depending upon how you look at it, maybe it sounds cruel, but the fact of the matter is this was an action that came from a place of love. And that's what makes all the difference in the world. It's a truth that comes from a place of love. And what it allows for your person to do on your team is to grow, to become something they can't see for themselves, to show them that belief in themselves that they don't have quite yet. And once it's like an eagle nudging their eaglets out of the nest. You know, once they nudge them out and they're free falling, they're freaking out, but until they get almost to the ground and their wings start to fly and they realize, oh my gosh, mom was right, I've got this. And that's kind of what leadership, I feel like, is a lot about. It's about taking that courage to be honest or giving that nudge, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable, even to you as a leader, because you're helping that person to grow. So anyway, very cool. I want to open the floor real quick because now we're over the 30 minutes. Does anybody have a question? Nobody's typed anything in yet. Lisa, you gave us so much information. All really good stuff.
Putting that in the message that was awesome. I just noticed that people were typing in. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I put all of the books in there, and the podcasts and so forth. I will say that the people code, that is new for me. I don't have that one. Everything else I knew about.
Really eye-opening.
Yeah, that looks interesting. Rock Your Network Marketing Business by Sarah Robbins, for what it's worth, y'all. That was my #1 favorite book when I started this business, and it remains the book that was more foundational to my business than anything else I ever read. And I've read all these books that she put up there. I've read a lot. So yeah, Rock Your Network Marketing Business is fantastic. It's very to the point, easy read. It's like reading a directional manual of how to do this business, what to expect, what not to be afraid of, all the good stuff. She's wonderful. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? How long before you started feeling a change in your symptoms?
Good question. Well, the first 3 days I mentioned, and then by the end of the first month, I did notice it wasn't like the first 3 days was like lightning change, like for those 3 things that I mentioned. And then by the end of the month, it was just little subtle things. As far as the actual loss of neuropathy and balance issues, not looking like I was drunk all the time, that was probably 5 to 6 months in. They were significantly diminished. I mean, there was significant changes every month. It took me probably, I didn't start losing any weight until probably the 4th, 5th month. And I know physiologically that's the last of my anybody's body's concerns. I mean, the last thing it's going to do is worry about weight loss. It's going to worry about healing everything else first. So I knew to expect that. And it, again, wasn't a priority, but I probably started losing weight around month 4 or 5. I'd lost the 40 pounds before my first anniversary, and then was asymptomatic by my first anniversary. And that was about the time I had my first MRI and noticed that and everything was stable. And I think it was about a year in that all my inflammatory markers were down, and about 60, I was going quarterly to see both my neuro and rheumatologist. And so I was going 8 times a year to see them, and I was often going multiple times in between for emergencies. And they knocked me down to like, every 6 months and then once a year. My rheumatologist discharged me after 8 years of care and said I was in remission. And then I think I stayed on the medications to kind of finish that up, Joe, until my 2-year marker. And they had talked about me stopping a long time before that, but I think I was just too scared. I mean, I didn't want to rock the boat. I also stayed at the loading dose of ease and nerve probably longer than I needed to, but again, I was just super scared. I didn't want to rock the boat. But I hope that helps. It's kind of a general timeline.
Lisa,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have a quick question for you, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Of course.
So my mother has terrible MS, and she is pretty much completely debilitated. So both physical and mental problems. And she is just terrified of trying anything that might rock the boat in a bad way. So she's pretty young. She's only 61. She takes lean shakes, but that's the only Plexus she will try so far. Again, completely disabled. My dad had to retire early to stay home to take care of her because she's a fall risk. She almost is like she has dementia, has all the pain, just miserable. But what advice would you have for us in trying to get her to acknowledge that it's worth a try to try something different, because she really is so terrified of something making it worse? She can't have like anything mildly spicy on her tongue, like heat, cold, all that sensitive stuff too. But, at this point, she hasn't been willing to give it a try. What would you say?
Well, it sounds like, okay, so I was motivated by the fear of what could happen bad, like continuing to get bad. And it sounds like your mom is the opposite. She's, I wanted to get healthy, and my fear was not getting healthy, if that makes sense. And I think with people with MS, it is really scary because some diseases, the outcome. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, eventually what their outcome is going to be. With MS, I could be like this the rest of my life, or I could continue to progress, which is what I was doing. And every time you have a flare, then as I'm just kind of catching everybody else up, that becomes your new normal. Then you have another flare and that becomes your new normal. So the goal is to not have flares. So what I would suggest for somebody who sounds like and I don't know your mom, obviously, so you know her personality and what she would respond to the best, how you present it is what I'm saying. But what I would suggest for somebody like her is first off to understand that it is a true fear, and that I would tackle her symptoms before I would try to get to the root cause. Like I would not, I know this is going to sound terrible, but I don't know that I would start her on triplex, because as much as she needs triplex, I would want her to see the benefits in some way. Like look at what her is. She exhausted all the time? Will she drink an active? Will that give her a little boost of energy and a little mental clarity that will give her some hope, that will give her the hope that she'll move on and try something else? And then if she does, then I would give her hope through something else like ease, because we know that neurologically there's a lot of inflammation going on. So she would take ease and get some of the inflammation down, and then maybe even nerve to get some of the nerve healing going and the nerve growth factor being produced. Then I think you probably could get, and then you could talk to her about the root cause and I knew that I needed to take a good probiotic. I knew that I needed BioCleanse. I knew the effects of magnesium and the beauty that they thought to oxygenate the magnesium. But your mom probably won't, and it probably doesn't matter to her. She doesn't care about gut health. She cares about feeling better. She cares about not having the symptoms as bad as they are and about not getting worse. So I would tackle the symptoms you can, and some of the best products we have for that right now. If she's like a typical MS person. And what you've described, I would see if she'd drink active, let her feel the little bit of energy, let her see the mental clarity, hopefully, and then maybe work with some ease, because then that's what I feel the best on. If I had to pick one product for the rest of my life, it would be ease. It'd be hard. I'd want ProBio 5. I'd want active. And here's the thing with active. I didn't think I needed active. Like, I had sustained energy. I felt great, mental clarity, brain fog lifted, all that kind of stuff. But when it came out, I believe I should try something if I'm going to recommend it to somebody. So I drank it when it was launched. I went down to the store and bought it. And I remember going to the next session and thinking, holy crap, there's another layer of clarity here that I didn't even know was possible. And it was just like, and I love that product. So I know that your mom will experience some level of that if she were to just give it a chance. It's just going to be in the presentation. And you are going to know how to present the to her. I'm happy to talk to her. I'm happy to email with her, private message with her, whatever's easiest. You could share my testimony. I can send you my written testimony. You're welcome to send that to her, share that with her, whatever works.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate that.
I will pray for your mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry.
I had a very severe MS customer. It sounds exactly like your mom, Joni, and she's since passed, and her husband remains a customer and so forth. But I could not agree with Lisa more on what she just said, because I feel like the difference between Lisa and your mom and Lisa and this past customer is one person is coming from a place of faith and looking for something that they feel is out there that will help them, and one is coming from a place of fear, so much fear that something's going to hurt them further. And I understand that, coming from a major medical, it's a scary place. And so that active and that ease, that's working her towards faith. Like, have a little bit of faith. If I can get you to have a little bit of faith, then I can add in the next product and the next product and the next product. So,
and the hope.
And the hope, yeah.
Some hope, because she probably doesn't have a lot of that right now. Somebody had asked about, it's product usage. I said, how do you manage podcasts? So it's like,
if you can give me your product regimen when you got started and number of E's, I'll throw this in here. Triplex and E's, right?
The triplex, and I did have to get to 4 ProBio 5s a night to fully treat the Candida, and I have found that my sweet spot is 3. So triplex, X Factor. I did move to X Factor Plus when it came out, so I now take triplex. I only need 2 BioCleanse, so 2 BioCleanse, 3 ProBio 5, Slim, microbiome activating. Hunger control did not work well for me. I take Mega X.
How many E's? When you started out, how many E's did you take?
6. I did 2 capsules 3 times a day. If you're giving them to somebody for joint pain, you need to have them take it on an empty stomach, so the digestive enzymes don't start working on the food in their stomach. You want it to get through the digestive system and out into the body. So on an empty stomach, 2 capsules.
Sorry, how long did you take the 6?
Way too long. The general rule, if you see all the graphics that are around, is 2 capsules 3 times a day for a month, and then 2 capsules twice a day for a month, and then 2 capsules a day for maintenance. I don't subscribe to that, because everybody's going to be different. I do it based on symptoms. I probably stayed at 6 capsules a day for 3 or 4 months. Then I moved to 2 capsules twice a day, and I probably did that for like 6 months. And then I finally got down to maintenance of 2 a day. But honestly, like, there are times where I'll still take 6 a day. If it's cold, it's winter, and I know that I'm going to be uber sensitive to that, because I do still have RA. It's not like, I don't have RA or MS anymore. I'll take extra. I always have extra bottles. So that's what I did with nerve as well. I did the same loading dose and tapering based on my symptoms. And with nerve, it's interesting. I only take 1 nerve at bedtime now. I don't even need the 2. And I feel like it's really high in B vitamins, but so is X Factor Plus. So I think that I'm getting what I need, the horse chestnut and all the other stuff. I just 1 a day. I don't have any neuropathy.
Wow, that is fantastic. That's amazing.
So I do active. I do Mega X. And I did that obviously because everybody should be on a good omega, but also because of the inflammatory benefits of having all 5 of the omegas. You're going to get the inflammatory benefits from those that help with inflammation. So it just made sense. And if I was going to buy one, I'd rather it be plant-based, and I'd rather buy my own. So
Yeah.
That was kind of a no-brainer.
I do the Mega X too. I added it in just recently over the last year or so as I was getting older, feeling like I couldn't keep the clarity of my thinking. And then it did help with my sleeping too, that I didn't think was bad, but
Yeah.
it's just a really nice way to
Yeah.
support your brain in
Mhm.
general.
Yeah, it's a great preventative. So I think is that it? I do lean shakes as needed. Am I missing anything? Oh, I take Vital Biome.
Oh yes, of course. Our happy pill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Does that about cover it for everyone? Does anyone have a business question at all? Business related?
Something you said. Oh, can I say something about business? It's, I think of it's Joni, right?
Yes.
When I was talking about your mom, I was one of those staunch, everybody needs triplex, everybody needs gut health. And I learned not very quickly, actually. I learned eventually that you need to meet people where they are. And I should have known that. I was a social worker. I needed to meet people where they are. I mean, but I was putting people on triplex who wanted weight loss. They weren't going to see weight loss quick enough. They were going to quit. But I always, always, always have that conversation with them from day one. I talk about the connection of gut health and losing weight, and that if we start you with, for instance, the healthy weight basics combo, and you lose some weight, but then you plateau, or you don't see the weight loss, and they're not willing to do a larger welcome pack, then I tell them that down the road, we're probably going to have to add in ProBio 5 and BioCleanse and address the gut health issues if you want to get past that plateau, because the reason you won't lose weight is the candida overgrowth and the gut health issues. So I'm always talking to them about that. I'm always talking to them from day one about, we're going to probably have to get you to 4 ProBio 5s a night. And I'm saying that to people who are telling me that they have terrible sugar and carb cravings, that they have that afternoon slump, that they have brain fog, they have all the things that are pointing to candida overgrowth. So if they're telling me that, I'm going to tell them, so it doesn't look like it's an upsell, I'm going to tell them that from day one. And I'm going to say, we're going to start on the triplex and X Factor, for example. And we're probably going to need to get you to 4 ProBio 5s every night. But the really cool thing is Plexus now has this Plexus Perks program. And by your 3rd month, you're going to have enough points, and that's probably about the time we're going to want to increase it anyway. You're going to have enough points to get a free bottle, so it's not going to cost you any more to do the 4 a night. Well, 3 a night and then 4 a night. So I'm having those conversations from day one so that they're not thinking it's an upsell. And so that if I go back and say, we're going to have to try the ProBio and BioCleanse for the, to get you through this weight plateau, they're not going to be thinking that, well, that first product didn't work, so now she's going to make me try something else. I told them from the get-go they probably were going to need to do this, but they wanted the weight loss, so I focused on their weight loss goal. I met them where they were. Does that make sense?
Yep, it's perfect sense. And I would just advocate to everybody too that having those conversations when you're in the closing process of your product sale is essential. I've had so many people that even if I've asked the right questions of like, do you struggle with any health issues? I mean, we've all been here. Do you struggle with any health issues? Nope, I got nothing wrong with me. I'm so good. And then like some other time in the future of talking to them, they're like, oh, I take medications for my PCOS. And you're like, how is that? And I'm okay, right? So trying as best as you can. It's not a perfect world, but during that educational and closing process, and this is why I love getting on the phone with my people when I'm actually going to make the purchase, because that is generally where I can draw out the most information. And that's generally where I find out, well, if I haven't found it out in a chat, then I'll find out like, oh, you have an autoimmune disease, then we're not doing triplex, we're doing variety pack. And you're going to take them right to the $200 package anyway, because ultimately they're going to need that. And I probably have like a 1% failure rate as to anybody saying, oh no, I don't want that upper package. Once people are educated and they understand the need and the reason behind it, they want what's going to help them most of the time. So,
another thing that works really well for that 109 versus 209 welcome pack conversation is I will present the triplex, for example, versus the healthy weight basics. And I will say, they're both $109, and this is what you get from this one. This is what you get from this one. But there is a larger welcome pack that actually has all of that and then some in it. It's going to have the ease that we talked about for inflammation. It's going to have the X Factor, multivitamin, mineral, polyphenols, all that good stuff. and you've got 7 to 8 products, and then we can see after that first month which ones you love, which ones your body responds to the best. And then we can tailor your products after that to meet those. And so most people are like, well, heck, I can get both of them and then some for like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-brainer. So if you give them like this or this, but hey, by the way, you can also get all of that and then some, then they usually want the also. And here's the deal: is you're setting them up for more success, which is our ultimate goal.
Mhm.
And you're setting them up to still be ordering 2-3 months down the road, which is what we want them to be doing, because that's what we know they need to really see true success.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you on here for too long. Lisa, I'm going to throw this question at you. If you can't think of it off the top of your head, why don't you, I'll message it to you. You can just message me a response, but
Okay.
it is, what is your go-to message when reaching out to new friends about plexus? What seems to work best? So you tell me, do you want to message me
I
that?
will message it to you. I'll pull up, because here's the funny thing. This is my disclaimer. I'll share it with you guys, and then I'll send the message to Tanya, and remind me if I forget. I used to send, I very quickly went from silver to gold to senior gold. And when I was doing that, I had a message I was sending. And then I felt like I needed to relationship build. And I got away from sending that message. And that's when my business really slowed down. And so I'm going back to using that message, and it's working again. So the
Wow.
lesson there is, I think you need to, obviously every interaction is different. I don't just cold message people and say, hey, do you want to try my plexus products? Because that is kind of spammy, and I wouldn't do that in a grocery store to somebody that I just ran into, hadn't seen in 20 years. But I've gotten to the point where now I can use that same message after reaching out and starting a conversation and then putting that message in. So I will be happy to share that. I mean, obviously you'll tweak it to fit your situation, but might help to get the brain cells going.
Yes. Thank you so much, sweet
You're
lady.
welcome. Thank you
I
for
really
having me,
appreciate
you
it.
guys. I hope that it was helpful. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Tanya can forward them, and I'll remind me, I will send you
Will
that.
do. No problem. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Have
you
a
for
great
having
night.
me. Good luck to everybody.